Welcome to Hardwired for Success, the podcast that explores how your thoughts create opportunities or barriers to your personal and professional happiness. Your thoughts are astonishingly powerful, and we make them regularly as if we are on autopilot. Each week, we will discuss how you can use your thoughts to increase your happiness and success. Without further ado, here is your host, Judy McKenzie.
Well, hello there. This is Judy McKenzie calling from another beautiful day in Toronto, Canada. Today's podcast is about the idea of how to love yourself or how to treat yourself with loving energy. And I want to share with you a couple nuances that what we thought were once really good for us actually might be taking us in the wrong path. I know that sounds very clandestine, but we will get to that. But I wanted to ask you a couple questions first before we get much further into this podcast. Just think about your day for a second and think about any time that you had today that something didn't quite go the way you wanted it. Something caused you to get a little bit upset with yourself. How did you talk to yourself? Did you talk to yourself with a berating tone, using words like stupid? You should have known better. What's wrong with you? Or did you talk to yourself in the following way? That might not have been your best move, Judy, but another time, why don't we just try this instead? That was a good learning. Okay, you can see the differences. They're not so subtle. So let me ask you a second question. Would you ever say the things that you say to yourself? Would you ever say them to a friend? Okay, let me take that one step further. Would you ever say that to someone you didn't even like out loud? You might say it in your head, but would you say it out loud to their face? And then the final question is, how would you feel if one of your good friends, or maybe your best friend, spoke to you in the kind of harsh, nasty language that you speak to yourself in? Those questions, I think, are really critical to keep in mind all the time when you are experiencing something of a change situation or a disruptive situation. And the outcome, what at the end of this podcast, which is not going to be all that long, but at the end of it, what I'd like you to start thinking about, giving you the information that I'll give you coming up, is how you might be able to change your inner dialogue to something that is a little bit more supportive, a little bit more understanding, and a little bit more loving. And that's the whole idea of how do you love yourself. And it's way beyond just getting your toes done, having a facial, having a massage. Those are nice things. Those are personal treats. But it is the everyday, every minute dialogue that goes on in your head is what makes loving yourself and caring for yourself really significant. So I do know that many people use sharp, critical terms to themselves because they think that it is actually going to motivate them to improve their performance or their behavior or their outlook or whatever. They think it's going to make a change, but it doesn't. It doesn't. We know it, well, I know, and many of you listening likely know as well, that the kinds of things that you think about become your reality. Your brain doesn't know what's real and what's not, or we wouldn't do this whole fight or flight thing all the time. It believes that everything you think is real. So when you are criticizing yourself, it's believing it's real. And so it's creating neural pathways, and it deepens those channels, grows those channels, so that you have a massive network of negativity going on in your own mind. Oh my God, doesn't that just kind of make you crazy? Also, when you're abusing yourself, because there's no other way to describe it, is that we often abuse ourselves, is that you are actually releasing cortisol into your system. Because as I said, your brain doesn't know if this is real or not, and it goes into massive protection mode. And to do that, it has to send cortisol into your system to get everything moving. That's why, you might start to sweat, your heart starts to beat, you get quite agitated. When was the last time you had a really creative, compassionate thought when you were in that state of mind? Never, right? On the flip side, when you start to treat yourself like you would treat a dear friend, and use some compassion with failings that you think or you may have. Very often what we think is not true anyway. That's a whole other podcast. But when you treat yourself with compassion, and I'm going to give you some real practical tips on how to do that, you actually will release the feel-good chemicals in your body, the oxytocin, the opiates. And that's what gives you that calm, soothed feeling. You often feel it after you have had an opportunity to meditate. Or if you are, looking at a sunset and you're hearing all these beautiful sounds, these natural sounds that have healing qualities to them. You're watching your child or your grandchild play and do really cute stuff. That releases those positive chemicals that they're amazing. I think that's why people get connected or hooked on meditation. I know that's why people get hooked on running and things like that, because they release those chemicals. So let me talk a little bit about self-compassion for a second. It's a way of relating to ourselves, and it's not evaluating our performance or our looks or our age or how we do things. It is looking at our human condition. We are humans. We are having an experience. I won't say we're humans having a spiritual experience. Self-compassion, giving yourself, there's nothing wrong with looking for change and trying to improve yourself. You just don't have to do it abusively. You can do it by, if you have something that is, if you've had something at work, let's say that, you weren't able to be as productive as you want. There are questions that you can ask yourself and ask others is, what am I missing here? Where can I learn how to do that? Is it best in books and videos? How can I improve my performance? I would like to do a better job at that. Rather than calling yourself every horrific name under the sun, especially the S word, stupid. I hate that. I can barely even say it. When you treat yourself with this kind of self-compassion, not letting yourself get off the hook. I'm not suggesting that. I'm a businesswoman. I am about outcomes and accountability and those kinds of things. But there are several ways to get there. And also, as you are teaching yourself these non-judgmental, compassionate thoughts, you're actually you're sending all these positive chemicals into your system, but you're also leaving yourself much more open to open-mindedness and compassion towards others. There isn't that quick desire to blame other people for something that has gone wrong. We all know of people who, when they've made a mistake or they've done something that hasn't worked out, the first thing they do is they actually look for someone to blame, and that gets really tiresome, and people don't have any time for that. Now, I'm going to introduce you to this is the area that is really quite controversial. There's been a whole self-esteem movement for the last 10, 15 years. The schools have really picked it up, and when I talk about the self-esteem movement, that is, is giving kids, high accolades for not accomplishing something. And there's a whole number of nuances, and again, that is like probably 2 other podcasts. But their idea early on was to improve self-esteem, which on the surface is fantastic. That's a great idea, because some poor kids, they do not hear very many nice messages outside of their mind. You can imagine what they're doing inside of their mind when they're replicating the messages that they've heard. So they're not feeling particularly good about themselves. And we've labeled that as poor self-esteem. And so, everyone's rallied around and tried to boost that up. But what's happened, I found research has shown that in first-year universities, when they were doing some testing of these first-year kids, there is a real serious spike in narcissism that they have directly related to this whole self-esteem movement. And what that does is the idea of self-esteem is you're trying to be more than average. Average is kind of a dirty word. It's like stupid, shut up, all those terrible, terrible things that we don't ever want to say to our kids. Calling them average is one of them. And so we're always encouraging our kids and ourselves to do it better than anyone else. And that you're always comparing yourself to someone else. And I know for a fact that, when you spend too much time comparing yourself to other people, you are always going to come up short. Because there are always going to be more people who have a faster car, a bigger house, a slimmer body, more beautiful clothes, a bigger cottage, all that kind of stuff. Can you hear what I'm saying? In that it is comparing yourself, which is a large part of the self-esteem movement, is bad news. Another podcast that I'm going to do is talking about open and closed learning, which is another one of those things where, we thought we were doing something really good when we were raising our kids, and in fact, it turns out, yikes, it didn't do what we were wanting it to do. And I'm of the age where I remember when they decided that smoking was harmful. Who would have thought? So, ways in which you can improve your self-compassion. When you have a negative thought, when something comes out, when you make a mistake, you think, oh my God, why did I do that? That's so stupid. I want you to rethink that. And, this is where journaling is a fantastic thing. I'm now an obsessive journaler because I think I'm in a new phase of my life. I'm in sort of that beautiful golden mile kind of thing where I am so aware of my emotions, and doesn't mean that I'm happy with them all, but I'm aware of them. And I do need to journal them on a regular basis so that I can reflect on them. And anyway, but if you journal the messages that you come up, in a particularly stressful period of time. So I'm not suggesting that you're always journaling these things. But if you have a difficult situation, one that agitates you, and you have found that you have really given yourself a good lambasting, if you're not in a position where you can journal, which most of us aren't, because this stuff happens at work, it happens in the car, it happens in the craziest places. Almost all the cell phones now, the smartphones, have a recording function where you can actually speak, and it will, you will write your thoughts. I use Evernote, and Evernote has a recording section, so that it just goes right into Evernote. So then I can go back and then be able to think about it a little bit more. So, when you're in a non-ideal position, use your phone just to make a recording of it, and then you can have a thought when you settle down. You are that glass of wine, a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever. Sit down and think about that, and start to adapt that usual critical thinking. Put that into more of a self-compassionate position. And remember, it's going to take some time to get self-compassion into your lexicon. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's a wonderful thing to do. And where I've really been piggybacking some of this thought interruption is through my meditation practice. I don't meditate for days on end. I meditate usually 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. And yesterday, I have to tell you, I almost blogged about it, because it was so funny that my mind was on a monkey brain. I'm going away for a couple weeks, and I'm thinking of all the things I need to do, both at home and for work. And so I'm meditating, and my mind is just, it's just squirrel, 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 squirrel. It's everywhere. And I always say that every time you gently pull your mind back, you're like doing an arm curl. Well, I was flexing my muscles so much yesterday. I did a lot of arm curling, because that was one of the most challenging meditation times I've had in a very long time. And I know it's just my mind was on so many other things. So, if meditation teaches us how to gently and non-judgmentally pull our minds back, you can do that. You can do that and apply that into, your everyday life. The other part, there's 3 components of self-compassion, and I'm just going to leave this with you before I finish off today. Self-compassion is about self-kindness, treating yourself with common humanity, and mindfulness. So those are the 3 parts. And mindfulness is the non-judgmental self-awareness component. I will be doing a lot more podcasting about mindfulness, because that's my thing, mindset and mindfulness. So I am thankful that you have joined me today. I have a private Facebook group. If you're interested, I do a Facebook Live presentation, and actually this coming week is going to be very exciting, because I'm going to be interviewing one of the group members who just spent a week at a mindfulness conference with one of the leaders in the mindfulness movement, and I am so excited to hear about her experience. We're going to do a conference, a video on it, and so we have these every week, and they are only broadcasts on the private wall. So if you want to join that group, it's free. And the reason I keep it private is to keep spammers and all kinds of other things that nobody needs away from the wall. That you can find that, and I'll have it in the notes as well, is at www.facebook.com /groups /JUDYMACK. So this is Judy McKenzie, thanking you so much for joining me today, and until next time, have a fantastic week and be kind to yourself. Be kind.
Thanks for listening to Hardwired for Success. And remember, make your thoughts work for you. Until next next time. Thanks for listening to Hardwired for Success. And remember, make your thoughts work for you. Until next time.